Redskins. Win total 7. 7-9 last year straight up, 7-9 ATS, 8-7 and 1 to the under. -4 in the turnover margin. And the big news, Cousins gone, and it's Alex Smith now. The big additions, Smith, Scandrick, and Paul Richardson, who I like, coming over for Seattle. Cousins gone, Fuller gone, Breeland gone. Not a lot to like with this roster. Gruden may be on the hot seat. Also, mainstream stats, ugly. 28th running the ball, 21st total defense, dead last run defense. I don't like this roster at all, and we'll see now. I'm excited about Cousins to Minnesota because he has some legitimate weapons to work with, and the Vikings wrapped up a 12-1 finish to the season with Keenum. What can Cousins do? But now, what will they do with Alex Smith? And the fact you can't really in love with who's going to run the ball, too. If you Fat Rob, you got Pete Ryan, you got Thompson, you drafted Geis out of LSU, who kept sliding and was supposed to be a first-round pick. So a lot of question marks about this Redskin team.
Geis will run the football, and I think he'll do just fine. He may make Jacksonville fans wish that they'd have waited one more year before they drafted Fournette at the top of the first. I think Geis is every bit as good, and Washington got him much, much later in the draft. We talk about this Redskins team, and I don't think there's any question. It's a make or break year for Jay Gruden. I mean, you talk about the hottest seats in the NFL. Hugh Jackson in Cleveland's got a hot seat. Vance Joseph in Denver's got a hot seat. Dirk Cutter in Tampa's got a hot seat. Maybe Adam Gase in Miami or Bill O'Brien in Houston. I don't think any of them are hotter than this seat. The Redskins don't win this year. Jay Gruden is gone. If the Redskins win this year, they'll get a contract extension. It's just that simple. When we talk about last year for the Redskins, and a ton of disappointments for Washington, underachievers in a number of different ways. Of course, they didn't finish in last place because they had the Giants to beat up on a little bit. But the key issue for this team last year, injuries, Pauly, and not just a couple, not just a bunch. They were one of the most injury-riddled teams in the NFL. Only the Texans and the Chargers can make a case for being worse in the injury spots than the Washington Redskins. I mean, they lost key players all over the place on both sides of the football. Gruden, 28, 35, and 1 during his Redskins career. You better hope this team stays healthy or he'll be gone. Of course, Matt Cavanaugh back for his second year as offense coordinator. They missed Sean McVay a lot last year with his play calling. Greg Manusky back with his second year as the defense coordinator. Only the second time in the last 5 years that Gruden bought his DC back. And of course, with Manusky comes a whole bunch of talent that got hurt last year, like Ryan Kerrigan, who you see in the photo. If you're looking at the replay here, Kerrigan, one of many impact Redskins on the defensive side of the football that were hurt last year and will need to be healthy this year if Washington's going to improve and go over that win total of 7.
Yeah, and I agree what you have in the write-up, too. It's dangerous to assume that Reed and these guys can stay healthy, who are injury-prone, and he had weapons in Kansas City. He won games, but now again, I'm concerned about who he's throwing to with Alex Smith, whether it's going to be Richardson, Dotson being likely their number one, and if Crowder, if you can trust some of these guys, and if they can move the ball on offense.
Well, I mean, look, when we talk about Alex Smith, he's a quarterback who people love to hate him. The one thing that and throughout, in the former number 1 overall pick, undefeated season at Utah under Urban Meyer back in the day, and has never lived up to expectations at the NFL level, meaning he hasn't been a superstar, but he's been a solid quarterback. He's taken teams to the playoffs repeatedly, in Kansas City, and he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Now, Washington wasn't a bad turnover team last year. What was it? 23 takeaways, 27 giveaways, a -4 margin. It wasn't like they turned the ball over left and right. But with Alex Smith behind center, it's check down Charlie. And that's odd when you talk about a team that has some playmakers at receiver. Doxton can play when healthy. Certainly Paul Richardson has a deep speed. Smith doesn't air it out a lot, but the key is he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I think they'll be every bit as coherent on offense as they were with Kirk Cousins behind center. Cousins was a great comeback kid. Cousins fell behind a lot. Alex Smith doesn't seem to make the same level of mistakes to fall behind, to force the comebacks. From a QB standpoint, grading the offseason for Washington as pretty much neutral, maybe down a little bit, not down a lot. between Kirk Cousins and Alex Smith.
NFC East plays the AFC South. In the NFC South, 2 extra games at Arizona and Green Bay at home. It's a tough division. They're probably the 3rd or 4th best team in that division. Who knows with the Giants and Eli Manning. They have a chance to get out of the gates okay at Arizona, and then you have Indy and Green Bay at home. I don't want my bye week 4. That's odd. And then off the bye, it's at New Orleans, Carolina, and Dallas. So that's tough as well. Thoughts on the schedule and more on the defense with what they have coming back?
Well, look, I mean, when you look at the Redskins' schedule, this is a team that, because they play the other teams in the the NFC East, they're all lined higher than there. Philly's lined as a Super Bowl contender. Dallas is lined as a playoff team. The Giants have gotten some love. So what you see from the Redskins, they're facing the toughest schedule in the division, which isn't fair necessarily for a team that's been as poor as they are. And, of course, the Giants have a much easier go of it when it comes to the 2 extra games. But based on this year's win totals, the Redskins have the toughest slate in the NFC East. Now, it's not by a huge margin, but you're right about the opportunity to get some early momentum. At Arizona, Indy, okay, the Green Bay game, at New Orleans, Carolina, and Dallas, then homes. They play 4 of their first 6 at home. One of the road games is very winnable. Then at the Giants after that. So there's room for the Redskins to get off to a decent start. If they do, they go 4-3, 5-2 out of the gate. They're going to go over the 7-win total. The possibilities exist for Washington in that regard. After all, it's been a great year for all the DC sports teams so far, hasn't it, Pauly?
Well, yeah, one good year. Yeah, Capitals finally do it.
Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the games.